This week on Right Now, Dr. Andrew Kaufman tells us about his new film, Terrain, which screens on Ickonic this weekend. Investigative journalist and best-selling author George Webb is on the line from America talking about Ukrainian biolabs. Truck driver David Garwell talks about the rise in global fuel prices. And businessman Simon Dolan discusses the rising cost of living, money markets and the implications of centralised digital currencies. Friday, 7 p.m. UK. Ickonic.com.
Well, I know this is going to be hard to believe, Gareth, but this war is really about dark weapons and especially bioweapons. It's these labs that Putin is reacting to. They went from 11 about 10 years ago when I started studying this to 30. They've gotten closer and closer to the border of Russia. This goes all the way back to President Obama, then Senator Obama in 2005. So there's a lot here to unpack, but it's certainly worth the investigation if you take the time to learn the history of this situation.
Because, I mean, you've been talking about American biolabs in Ukraine for years, and people sort of ridiculed you for it. How do you feel now that it's all over the news?
Well, I wish people would have looked at the evidence, but it's okay because it's more important that the group collective knowledge gets out there. I actually have an Andrew Weber who worked with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency showing Obama, a young senator then in 2005, a vial of anthrax in 2005 in Kiev at a biolab. So how they could say that there's no bioweapons in Ukraine is hard to believe, but people just wouldn't look at that evidence. It took a war, unfortunately, for people to realize that, hey, this is sort of like a Cuban Missile Crisis for Putin. They get closer, the weapons get closer, the plans getting laid, their plans are being intercepted. How long do you wait before you have no point of no return to do something?
What are the implications for your industry and therefore people's livelihoods?
It's just become a game of pass it on now. So as the fuel price goes up, a surcharge goes on the delivery of the goods that have been transported from point A to point B, and the customer pays the price at the end.
That's something that I think a lot of people don't make the connection. They'll go, oh, you know, fuel's a lot more expensive, that's annoying, or fuel's a lot more expensive, oh God, it must be dreadful to be a cab driver, but they don't necessarily think, well, actually, no, that has implications over everything, doesn't it?
It's all relative. It's not as bad as what you think, because you've got to be careful, because the media runs away with it like, oh, the fuel's gone up, so X, Y, and Z is going to cost more. But if I give you a simple mathematic breakdown, so if you've got a lorry that can carry 28 tons, and that 28 tons, we'll say the bags of 1 kilogram bags of flour, and you sell them at £1 a bag, then if you were to put a penny on top of each of them bags of flour, you've got 280 quid or whatever it is. So it's the end price isn't as much as what you think it is, but there's always people making money in the middle. Oh, the fuel prices have gone up, so we've got to put 20 pence or 20% on a jar of jam when you don't need to put that much on, because the actual raw cost of the fuel shifting it from point A to point B isn't relative to the cost of the goods in the back of the truck, if that makes sense.
What are your colleagues or former colleagues saying about it, the situation? Because, you know, are they saying the same as you, or is it a case of, you know, they're making more money now, or they're having to work more hours because there's a shortage? What's their take on the situation?
No, it's really strange, because after we spoke last year, I went driving for about 6 weeks, and literally nothing in the industry has changed at all, except you're earning twice as much. That's it.
You don't hear that anywhere.
Yeah. You won't do, but literally, I mean, the wages peaked for a bit towards Christmas, and they're starting to make their way back down again. I don't think they'll go back down to what there was. I mean, it's better paid than it was, but it's all hype, and it's like there was a lorry driver shortage, and there was a fuel driver shortage, and there was a something else shortage, and there's always a shortage. Yet miraculously, I still keep managing to get all my groceries delivered every week. I mean, occasionally there's a shortage of the odd thing, but nothing's losing its sleep over.
I think we spoke back in 2020. We were talking about, you know, the effect on the economy and stuff, and the media, the way they almost kind of pointed people's view on the economy was, oh, that's billionaires, isn't it? Yes, yeah, they're just worried about their money. And it was like, I remember you saying at the time, that's not how it works at all. It affects everyone, particularly those, like you say, that are less well off.
Well, interestingly, you know, it affected the billionaires, and it affected them really well. They all be richer. So, yeah. You know, good on them. Great. Wasn't that fantastic for them? But of course, this is the opposite to what the government say. You know, we need to help out poor people and we need to print more money and give it to them. And now what's happened is, I was looking at some stats earlier. It actually costs, depending on what you believe COVID deaths actually to be, it equates to about 16,000 people died of COVID, which is probably, I think, about right, maybe. That equates to the money that they've printed to deal with the COVID crisis, in inverted commas, that equates to £25 million per death. Or another way of putting it is, it's cost everybody in the UK £6,000. Just the money printing, what happened to it? Where did all that money go?